Let me bring in Khayelihle Khumalo just to open up his diary for us very quickly while we wait for that event there, Khaya. Firstly, let me just jokingly say to you, you're an orphan. You're an orphan.
And I'm not used to
your
it.
Mother, your boss is gone.
Uncharted territory.
In the SABC News International Desk, of course, alluding to the recent retirement of our colleague, Sophie Mkwen. Serious matters though, Khaya. The sweeping tariffs by the United States are kicking in. And there's a bit of a confusion. It was meant to be the 1st of August, but I've seen that there's a bit of a lag. Are you able to explain for our viewers who've heard us saying on the 1st of August they're kicking in, and now hearing us saying, oh no, they'll be kicking in the coming days? What's the story there?
Well, certainly, Tulas, is a quite devastating news. So from the 1st of August, that's when the announcement was made. But when you really look at the actual day, it's a 7-day period. So that means from the 7th of August, that's when the impact will be felt. And we know for South Africa, I mean, for example, President Cyril Ramaphosa said intensive negotiations are underway with the US. I mean, this is South Africa's second largest trading partner. And also, given the very significance of the US in the global economy, this has really rattled the global markets, but also the impact. We know that with South Africa, the sluggish economic growth, it's been quite a massive concern. So when you have these tariffs as well, affecting the automotive, the agricultural sector, the wine, and many other sectors as well. But South Africa's response as well is that they will try and look at these sectors and come with this package to try and lessen the severity of this impact to us, especially because, I mean, when you look at from COVID-19, South Africa has really been limping, especially because, I mean, when you look at Donald Trump, the US president, he has been saying for BRICS countries as well. I mean, look at Brazil, for example, 50%, for South Africa, 30%. So it's really going to be a very, very tough time.
Yeah, well, diplomatically, what's going on there, Khaya? Because I saw comments by the Trade Industry and Competition Minister, Park Stau, about we have a framework that we've proposed to the United States to say, okay, we hear you. You want to impose tariffs because you want to level the playing field, or even though we don't share the view that the playing field was not level, but we are willing to indulge and entertain you. So what's the holdup? Why are we not able to get a deal over the line? Do we have any insights into that?
It's a very complex affair, Tulis, especially because, for example, the government speaks about this non-disclosure agreement between their counterpart to the US, for example, but there has been quite a lot behind the scene being done. We've seen the International Relations and Cooperation Minister, Ronald Lamola, going to the US. We've seen even the DG engaging with their counterparts. But I think also what complicates the situation is a very frosty situation between the US and South Africa. South Africa chairing the G20, where the priorities of South Africa are not really in agreement with the current administration in the US. So I think that's what really makes things very complex. For example, we're looking at that handover. Will it be seamless in November when South Africa must hand over to the US? When you talk about the Troika, South Africa is the current chair, Brazil as a former G20 chair, and the US as incoming. So there's quite a lot of issues here at play.
So there's an expression that we reporters, we journalists, broadcast journalists in particular, like to abuse, that Vladimir Lenin that says there are decades when nothing happens and then there are weeks when decades happen. It's apt in this particular in the context of this next story, right? The recognition of the state of Palestine. The countries that are saying that now are countries that for decades you never would have imagined that they would be saying this.
Well, very much so, Tilis, especially the likes of United Kingdom, Canada. So quite a number of countries, really, they are seeing that it's about time that the Palestinians, they enjoy their sovereignty, they have their own states, especially given the catastrophe that is currently unfolding in Gaza. So there's quite a massive pressure, and all of this is going to coincide with the UN General Assembly in September. So it's going to be a very, very big moment. But Tulasizwe, what is very interesting in this regard is that you have the likes of South Africa. You go back to 1995, where South Africa recognized Palestine as a state. But I mean, this is a very, very complicated situation because the conflict is underway, and the whole whole issue about the two-state solution, but also we saw that all-important session in New York where a number of countries were saying it's about time that Palestine is recognized with all these respected borders in recognition with the 1967 resolution of the UN.
Yeah, and I wonder what the impact will be in terms of that recognition, because it will be interesting if France and the UK follow through. In the P5 of the UN Security Council, that would leave the US as the only country that doesn't recognize Palestine.
Very much so. And it's quite a very fascinating situation, Tula Caesar, because already from Washington, D.C., you do have Trump, for example, saying that, look, Canada is about to recognize Palestine. It's going to complicate the trade deal between the two nations. But it's a very, very interesting scenario, especially because, for example, when you look at the Palestinians, they say it's about time this is really recognized, especially because you go back to last year where the UN General Assembly had a number of countries recognizing this particular resolution. And of course, now the issues about the UN Security Council, the veto power, where the P5, they really have that all-important decision-making process.
Just one of them saying no, it all falls apart. Quickly tell me about what we're watching in as far as the conflict in Sudan is concerned, one of those underreported but with dire humanitarian consequences.
Well, absolutely, Tula says, especially because, I mean, you do have so many reports, once again, from the UN, so many aid agencies, really speaking about a terrible situation where you have over 39 million Sudanese displaced, but also a very dire situation because you have for example, the African Union, they've been speaking about this issue for some time, but there's no difference on the ground. A lot of people are really bearing the brunt of this conflict. The divisions are quite wide, and it's a very, very devastating situation.
All right. Khayelihle Khumalo from our international desk, giving us a sense of the key stories that they'll be watching this coming week.